Hello, everyone. I'm Yasmin, family relationship coach, and I'm so happy to have you join me today for a little Q&A session that we'll be sharing. I've chosen another great question for today, which touches on the theme of reconnection to family members you may be separated from. This is a thought that many face as we start the new year, so I'm really glad it was asked. As always, remember to embrace what you like from my suggestions, but always listen to your own instincts too. You know intimately all the parts of your relationship, the character of your family member, your family history, the history of interaction, and the history of responses that you've received in the past. And because of that truth, I always like to encourage everyone to use your personal judgment when listening to my suggestions or the suggestions from anyone else. Always trust your personal knowledge and have confidence in your own thoughts. And always take steps that you feel comfortable with or that work for you. So don't ever put pressure on yourself to follow my advice or the advice of anyone else. Each of us are at different stages within our family relationships, and each of us have our own levels of comfort, confidence, and strengths. And each of us have different characters we're dealing with in our family situation. So please, when listening to suggestions, always take into consideration your own feelings, your own comfort levels, and also what works for you and where you're at on your healing journey. Also, remember that these Q&A discussions are not intended to replace therapy or counseling, and I really like to remind people of that. So if you're feeling very overwhelmed and having trouble coping, then please always remember the option to seek counseling, therapy if needed, or join support groups and really look after yourself. Because obviously, like we know, there's only so much we can cover in small discussions. So don't ever feel afraid to seek further help as needed. So I'll read out the question for us all, and then we can open some discussion about looking to solutions. So the question that I'm going to share today is, one of my goals for the new year is to really try and take the steps needed to heal the broken relationships in my family. I've spent a few years now with distance from my family. I was actually the one who created the boundaries because I felt I needed to heal and find myself again from some early adult conflicts. I really feel like I've grown a lot, and I'm finally in a place where I can reach out and try to reconnect. Ultimately, I've always wanted to reconnect and keep alive the closeness I had with my family in my youth. My question today is, what steps could I focus on in the new year for rebuilding my relationships with my family? Okay, so like I said, I'm so glad this question has been asked, and you are certainly not alone in your thinking. It's very common to always be hoping that things can be restored in our family, but especially at the start of the new year, we can really easily find our thoughts turning towards really wanting to make a renewed effort. And even though it's true that healing broken family relationships can be a difficult and complex process, it is possible to repair and strengthen bonds between family members. And I've seen this through my work, so it's not a wasted effort if that's what you want. Whether the damage is the result of a single event or a long standing behavioral pattern, there are steps that can be taken to heal the rift, or at least to start with, improve communication and understanding within the family. But firstly, I want to remind everyone listening that this question is focused on the desire to reconnect. It's coming from someone that does want reconnection. And that desire and focus isn't something that everyone wants. And I want to make it clear that I'm not saying everyone should work towards reconnection. This is a very personal choice. But my shared discussion today is focused on today's question that is from someone that does want to reconnect. So please keep that in mind as we continue discussion. Now, like with every situation, it's impossible to cover every possibility in a single discussion. And when it comes to reconnection, there truly are a million different ways we can approach this, depending on our individual family situations and the individual characters that are within our family. So I'm going to focus on some of the key elements that can help us take these steps, with the unspoken understanding that we can obviously expand on each element and add other elements specific to individual needs and situations. So to start with, one important step in healing broken family relationships is to identify the root cause of the problem. Now, this might seem straightforward, but it can actually be sometimes very hard to pinpoint, especially if the situation has been lasting for years. So, it might require some introspection and honesty on the part of all parties involved. And if needed, it might even be helpful to seek the assistance of a therapist or a mediator to also help facilitate this process and facilitate honest, open communication. Now, once the cause of the problem has been identified, it's important to address it honestly and openly. This could involve engaging in discussions to further understand each other's perspectives. It could involve apologizing for past actions, seeking forgiveness, possibly, or setting boundaries to prevent future conflicts. Again, it could also involve seeking outside help, such as therapy or counseling or coaching, to really learn new communication skills or to work through underlying issues or to help uncover underlying issues. Now, in addition to addressing the root cause of the problem, it's also really important to focus on rebuilding trust and rebuilding the bond between family members. Now, this can be done through small gestures of goodwill, such as expressing gratitude or appreciation, or by spending quality time together, doing activities that are peaceful and enjoyable for all the parties involved, and not spending time focusing on the past and the issues that cause trauma. Remember, the focus now is to rebuild trust and closeness. It also involves taking very, very small steps. Remember that there was conflict. Remember that there was separation. Remember that there was hurt and pain. So we need to rebuild that. We need to heal that. So don't rush this stage, or don't put pressure on anyone to reach the same level of closeness that you had in the past. There's also the truth that the rekindled relationship will be very different to how things were in the past. And this is normal. So, again, don't put any pressure on how things will evolve. Be patient and take your time in this stage. Don't rush this stage. It could take months to rebuild closeness and trust, and that's normal and that's okay. Another important aspect of healing broken family relationships is to be willing to compromise and make sacrifices if needed. Now, this may involve making changes to your own behavior, such as being more patient or understanding, or it may involve making compromises to meet the needs of others. And it's important to remember that these sacrifices, they're made for the greater good of the family and to strengthen the bonds between family members. So you really need to put ego aside. And the last thing to remember is that it's important to be persistent and patient in the process of fixing broken family relationships. It may take time for trust to be restored and for communication to improve. It's really important to be consistent in your efforts and to remain open and willing to work through any challenges that may arise, and also to be flexible. And even take time out again if needed, and while everyone is processing things and rebuilding relationships. And always be kind to yourself if setbacks happen, because that is normal part of a healing journey, and it's a normal part of rebuilding anything. So to go over those key points, healing fractured family relationships required strength and honesty. It requires open communication from both sides. It requires rebuilding trust and a willingness to compromise and have compassion for all involved. And like I said, even though it might be a difficult and complex process, it is possible to repair and strengthen the bonds between family members, but it will take time. And also, I want to point out that I know for some, there isn't this option because currently there isn't communication. But this is where I always remind you to spend the time on your own healing or on strengthening your own resilience, and also spending the time to develop understanding and learn the steps needed for when the time is right for those of us that do want or hope for reconnection. So I hope that provides some reminders for what to focus on with your family. And going back to your question, seeing you were the one who asked for distance in the first place and you were the one that needed some space, I really think your efforts will be well received by your family. And like I said in previous Q&A discussions this month, be mindful also that this is the holidays. So everything we do should be done with the thinking that we do not need to know all the answers by January the 1st. So for now, do what's needed. Start thinking on the new year and what your goals are, but take small steps. look after yourself, and also, as always, be kind to yourself. So I hope that helps. And I hope that helps everyone for the holidays and as we approach the new year. So thank you for being with me today. And as always, sending love and light to all.